Hello, and welcome to American Motherhood, the podcast where we explore how society shapes the motherhood experience and the communities we live in. I'm Bethany, and today we're talking with Aaron Glasgow, a current member of Westerville City Council running for re-election this November. Aaron is an attorney who brings legal expertise, leadership, and a community-centered vision to his role on council. In our conversation, he reflects on his path to public service, explains the responsibilities within council, and highlights the impact of his work in Westerville. He also shares what motivates him, the leadership qualities he values, and his top priorities for our city, from casting key votes and guiding development to supporting families and honoring Westerville's rich history. This local election series is designed to make city government more accessible to you, the voters. If you find this conversation helpful, please share it with a friend, leave a review, and subscribe to American Motherhood on your favorite podcast app. And as always, you can reach me at americanmotherhood@gmail.com if you'd like to join the conversation. Okay, let's dive in. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for being here. I'm looking forward to getting to know you and what motivates you to be on City Council and work for our great city of Westerville. To start, can you just tell us about yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having me. Well, let's see. I grew up in Westerville. My parents built their house in 1977 in Amherst, so I've been here pretty much my whole life. Went to Amherst Elementary and went through, middle school, graduated from Westerville South. Went to the College of Worcester for undergrad. I was a philosophy major, so that's kind of crazy. Went to law school after that at Capital University. Graduated from Capital in 2002. Got my license, and I've been a practicing attorney ever since. I live here. I'm in the Old Mill neighborhood, and I'm married, and I have 3 kids, 23, 20, and just turned 17. So he's at Westerville North.
Great. So what is your specialty in law?
So I'm at a mid-sized firm. My specialty is representing local governments, so pretty applicable.
Right.
Like Westerville and including Westerville from time to time. So I represent cities, villages, school districts, sometimes special counsel for the state of Ohio. So basically, all kinds of local governments all around the state. And that could be in pretty much any type of case, usually with lawsuits. So it could be police case, it could be a zoning case, it could be car accidents, it could be pretty much anything that a government gets sued for. I've represented them.
Okay. Wow, that must be very interesting.
It actually is. There's a big variety.
Yeah. Okay, so tell us, what was your path to City Council?
Well, like I said, I was a philosophy major and a minor in poli-sci, so I've always had, political philosophy has always been something I've been interested in. So, and then, I went to law school and I got into this practice area of representing local governments, which, I have a lot of experience then because of that. And then I guess it would be 8 or so years, maybe 9 years ago, somebody suggested, hey, maybe you should look at the Board of Zoning Appeals in Westerville. It's a voluntary position. And I thought that'd be interested. I had a good zoning background, so I applied for that, was appointed. And I was on the Board of Zoning Appeals for the BZA for 7 years, and I was the chairman for 3, I believe. And at that point, they kind of switch positions or sort of move from one to the other if you get experience. So I was asked to be on the Westerville Planning Commission, which is also zoning related, but looks at some different issues. And I was on that for about a year and a half when I ran in 2023. Unfortunately, I didn't win. I was about 240 votes short. But then, by happenstance, about 3 months later, one of the city council members had to resign, or did resign, and I was appointed on.
Okay.
And that was in February of 2023.
Okay, great. So, what lessons did you take away from your first campaign?
Actually, I think mostly they were positive. I mean, you really don't know what you're doing when you go in. So it was really grassroots. It was basically my wife and I and my kids that were doing everything, putting together the literature. I had a little help here and there. So it was kind of just a good learning experience about how you do these things. I look
Yeah.
back now in the way that I'm doing things now and be like, oh my God, we really didn't know what we were doing.
Right.
But,
Right.
I got to give a shout out to my wife. She walked 210 miles putting out literature.
Wow.
So, she was a champ. But I guess that was the biggest thing is I learned, kind of how to do it. And,
Yeah.
even though I'm a lawyer and I talk to people a lot, I think it's a different skill to learn to just be open and talk to people, talk to voters, talk to residents. And I think I learned how to do that as well.
Oh, that's great. So, can you explain the different roles within council and how those positions are chosen?
Sure. So there's 7 council members, and then there's a mayor and the vice mayor, and there's the chair and the vice chair. The mayor is, for all intents and purposes, the public, the representative for the city. The mayor goes to ribbon cuttings and things like that and openings, and actually has a good bit of the meeting where they're doing the accommodations, and so there's a mayor's report and sort of the forward facing. The vice mayor steps in and will do those things as well if the mayor's not available or in addition to the mayor. The chair runs the meetings and liaison more. The chair and the vice chair sort of liaisons with city staff.
Okay,
So
great. And how are those positions chosen or appointed or?
at the beginning of the year, there's a organizational meeting where the 7 members vote on each one of the positions.
Okay.
So it's chosen within the council itself.
Okay, great. And so do individuals nominate themselves to be in a particular role and express interest in that, or is it just a matter of what the council chooses?
So I was brought on slightly after the organizational meeting, so
Sure.
I've not been
Yep.
through one yet. But we have the same type of thing with Board of Zoning Appeals and Planning Commission. So typically, one member will nominate another member, and then there'll be a vote on that, and then they'll go through the different positions in that way. So I'm not sure. I've never seen anybody in the boards, and I don't think it's happened. They nominate themselves. Usually,
Sure.
it's another member nominates that person, and then there's a vote.
Okay. Okay. Why is this work personally meaningful to you?
Well, as I said, I grew up in Westerville, so I think probably the biggest reason is because it's an opportunity for me to help improve the city that I live in. I mean, I love Westerville, and I've been the beneficiary of a whole lot of different people over the years. Doing good things, making good choices for the city. And now I'm in a position with my experience and my knowledge to be able to do the same thing for current residents and for future generations to also make those good decisions. Basically, just to give back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Are there any moments so far in your time on council that stand out to you as, oh, this is what makes it worth it?
sure. I mean, it's been kind of a whirlwind. It's amazing how fast that 2 years or a year and a half has gone by. I do sit on the planning commission, so in addition to those roles that we talked about before, members get appointed onto various boards around the city that do different things. One of the boards that I'm on is the planning commission still, so there's a council rep on planning commission. And so that's sort of the liaison between council and that board. Planning commission uh, reviews plans for development around the city and conditional uses and other things like that. And I think probably the most meaningful moments for me have come from being that liaison, being on the planning commission, because we're doing a lot of great things in Westerville from a planning perspective. We've got a whole bunch of different areas we're looking at around the city, whether it's South State Street or just different areas, Braun Farm. There's a lot of different areas to redevelop. I think most of my meaningful moments have come through being in that role. The Smash Park is about to open, or is opening. The soft opening is right now. I was really involved with that, and I'm really excited about that as a use.
I haven't seen it. Where is it?
It is on Cleveland Avenue and Polaris. So do you remember
Oh,
where there's a pond with fountains there across from Brewburger?
yeah.
Yeah, there's a building that's being developed behind there. It's been constructed behind there,
Okay.
and it's going to be the primarily pickleball, but it's a restaurant and it's got different other kinds of uses. So if you're familiar, and I don't make the comparison, but if you're familiar with Pins Mechanical,
Yeah, yeah,
it's kind of like that, but it's got pickleball, and I think it's going to be a lot more than that as well.
yeah. Good, because I've been wanting to get into pickleball, so that's my chance.
I've tried it. I'm not very good at it.
Okay.
But I was involved with that. That was probably one of the first big projects that I was on council and planning commission that went through. We're also, another big thing that's very visible is the development project on East Africa, the 88
Hmm.
acres. I wasn't on when the land was purchased, but I was on when that went through planning commission for the general plan. So we own the land. The city has now worked on or gotten approved the roads and the infrastructure plan so that those sites are ready for developers, private developers, to come in and potentially purchase and develop those pieces. And the great thing that a lot of people I don't think realize about that is because the city owns that land, the city has a lot more control than we otherwise would on the quality of the development, the type and the quality of development, and also basically what the site's going to look like when it's done. My understanding was the prior owner was a developer, and there was no real guarantee about how much trees they would leave, and also no guarantee about what would happen to the Sharp House. Since the city acquired it, it's part of the zoning requirements that we preserve the Sharp House, which is really important to a lot of people, including me. And also, there's the provision that the tree canopy that was there when we started work has to be there when we're done with the work and preserved. So that's really important to a lot of people. So right now it looks pretty barren because they're in the middle
Hmm.
of construction. But when it's done, I think it's gonna. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, that's great. In case anybody listening is in the same boat as I am not familiar with the Sharp House. So can you tell us about that?
Okay, yeah, the Sharp House is a historical house on Africa Road. So it's very historical for Westerville. It's a brick house. It sits right on the road.
I'm sure I've seen it.
Oh, I'm sure you have. Yeah, it's right out there by the road. So it's a big piece of Westerville history, and we're proud that we can preserve that.
Yeah.
We also passed a home improvement program. So the city, through its own funds, will work with the Mid Ohio Regional Planning Commission and invest $2.5 million over 5 years, where Westerville residents that meet a income threshold can apply for grant money, not loans, but grant money to improve their homes for things like if they have roof or water lines that need to be repaired or things that might be so expensive that a homeowner at a certain level wouldn't be able to pay for them and might have to move out. So it's a way to help people pay for those big expenses and keep them in their homes, which is
Yeah.
very.
Absolutely. Did you say that is active?
Yes, yes, it is.
Oh,
And I
that's
don't
great.
know the exact number of applications. And actually, we have finished projects now. And I think last time I heard it was something like 7 or 10 finished projects, and it hasn't been in effect for very long. And we've gotten a lot of applications. So it's a there are other similar programs that are administered to the federal and the state governments, but this is the first one, at least in the region. I think maybe first overall, where it's the local government that is using its own money for its own residents, which is really exciting.
Very. Gosh, that's wonderful.
And it's a piece of our, I think everybody realizes that housing is a big issue and it's going to be a big issue,
Yeah.
and that's one piece of addressing housing is keeping people in their homes.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, well, let's talk about the future. So, whether it's on the Planning Commission or in any other areas that you focus, what changes or opportunities do you see or anticipate in the future?
Well, I think, first talking about opportunities, like I said, I mean, there are different areas around the city that we're looking at for redevelopment. The South State Street corridor south of Uptown is a
Hmm.
is a great example and probably the primary one. There's opportunities in Central College. There's opportunities in Braun. When I say Braun Farms, I mean on Cleveland Avenue and Main Street or south of there. In that land there's opportunities in Brooks Edge, and then of course the 88 acres, the east of Africa, that is currently under development.
Right.
So no, I think the development opportunities are probably the biggest things on the horizon from what I see. I mean, I think there's always uncertainty, and we can talk about that later, I'm sure. But with the what's happening in sort of national politics,
Yeah.
but I think focusing on Westerville, those development opportunities, obviously always enhancement. I mean, we got so many good things going on in Uptown Westerville with new restaurants coming in. I don't know how much you get to Uptown, but I feel like I'm there a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's
So,
great.
new restaurants. We did the land swap with Middlefield Bank, where Middlefield Bank is building near Smash Park, right next to Smash Park, and the city now has the building that is the bank down at Uptown. It's
Yeah.
another opportunity. Begin just opened, Ampersand opened. It's just crazy having grown up here and sort of remembering what Uptown was. When it was dry I mean it was nice. We had little stores and you had cock rolls and you had the other stuff. But I mean since we passed liquor options and things have come down there and there's been so many restaurants and the merchants are great and it's just so vibrant down there.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Let's see. So, what skills from your experience as an attorney do you bring to your work on council? Obviously, there are a lot of ties there with working with local government.
Yeah, sure. So, in addition to defending local governments and lawsuits, I also am village solicitor for several villages. So, in that role, you're actually advising on a day-to-day basis your clients, your village clients, or your city clients about any aspect of things that could come up. We have our own city attorney for Westerville, so I'm serving that role for other villages. So that can be anything from personnel to public records to just pretty much anything that a city does and it has so many ways of being involved or things that come up. And then obviously because of the lawsuits, I understand the kinds of ways that local governments can either get in trouble or the pitfalls and things that they see and that I've defended. So, I would say, how does it inform? I mean, basically everything I've been doing for the last 23 years with local governments and how they work, comes into my work on city council, whether it be understanding, the way that ordinances will impact, or government services or, you know, how things work with the police or the fire or public safety. I mean,
Yeah.
it all comes into it.
Yeah. And I imagine that it helped shape your, well, surely negotiation skills, but also just being able to navigate difficult conversations. And I feel like that is such a difficult skill to learn and how to actively listen to community members in this case and hear what they want and get beyond the emotion and into
Right.
what a productive conversation.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the concerns or the problems that people have, you see them all over. I
Yeah.
mean, so it's a little different role as a city council person than it is as the attorney for the for the city.
Right.
As the attorney, there's some distance between that. You just have the law with city council. You're the ones making the decisions, and you're the ones accountable, and that's how it should be. Yeah, I think that's hugely important. One of the things that we've been doing, and I say me and council member Reem Schneider have been doing is just sitting down in Uptown about once a week, sitting in front of city council or we're down at Rotary Park. We just sit and have a little sign up that says we're on council and questions, comments, or concerns. And people like that. I mean, people really like just coming. Most of the time, they don't have criticisms or concerns, which is good. But we're certainly happy to hear those. Those are probably more important, actually, to hear. But just having good conversations about the city, and what people like, what people don't. One of our poll questions is, do you like the old location for the farmers market, or do you like the new location for the
Oh,
farmers market?
interesting. What's the verdict?
I would say it's about 50-50.
Okay.
I think that a lot of people like, the proximity of the old location to Uptown, that, merchants and the stores and being able to walk right over there. But I think the some people that like the new location just kind of like the layout where it's sort of circular and you can see all the vendors that are there. And if you want to, you can go over and get coffee or a drink or something from North High. So it's been pretty 50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah, people are really, I mean, people like to, they always walk by and they look at me kind of skeptically, like, do they really want to talk to us? And we're like, no, we really want to hear from you.
Uh-huh.
And once you get in those are really good conversations.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Okay. What leadership qualities do you value most, and how would you describe your own leadership style?
Well, I mean, I think foremost in this role, you have to be honest and you have to be authentic. I mean, if people perceive that you have, I don't know, motivations they can't tell, or just you're not being honest with them, that you're not going to be able to have a good dialogue. People aren't going to, they're not going to trust you. So I think that's first and foremost. I think you have to have experience. That's probably one of the biggest reasons I felt comfortable running before and now again is that I've satisfied myself that I have the experience to add value in this position. I'm not just running to be on council. It takes up a lot of time. It does, but I think with my experience, I can add value to how the city operates, and hopefully I can help with improvements. So like, obviously, experience matters.
Right.
Like you said before, I think just having the ability and the willingness to engage with anyone in the community, not just people that agree with you, not just people that, echo chamber is a, is a
Yeah.
very hot button term or whatever, but getting outside of your bubble or getting outside of your echo chamber and being willing to engage with anyone from the city, anyone. And we have people that walk by that aren't even from the city that have just, want to talk about the city, and we're happy to do that too. But just being willing to engage and get those opinions to help inform what we do on council, and be able to pass that information back to the city, city staff, Team Westerville, that can do something with it. And I think at the end of the day, and maybe this is something that I think a lot of people are not happy with, at least on a state or federal level, or is correct, good motivations. I mean, I think people in these positions have to be motivated by the right thing. And for me, I think the right thing is what's the best for Westerville, my hometown, what's the best for its residents, and without consideration of, other things, other extraneous
Right.
things.
Right. Absolutely. We all have a shared goal, right? We want to live in a beautiful, great place.
I would hope so. Sometimes I wonder, but the more local you get, the more I think you see that. I think you get everybody kind of on the same page. You talk to Westerville residents, and everybody likes the same things. Everybody is very happy with the service. Well, everybody, but most people are really happy with the safety services, the police and fire. People love the parks. The city within a park. That's a common refrain, but everybody loves the parks. Everybody either does, or most people should at least appreciate the public services, the electric, the water. I mean, they're really they're great. We hear that a lot.
Good. That's great. What are your top 3 priorities for Westerville?
Well, like I said, foremost, I think you can't have a successful community if you don't have public safety. I think everybody that's running for these offices acknowledges that you have to have public safety, and we have excellent public safety. Our police and fire are great. I'm sure you're aware that we have our own training academy and from the police force. It's called CALIA. The acronym escapes me, but it's a certification for police that's really important. And the fire department is great as well. And so if you don't have safety, you really don't have a successful community. People aren't going to want to live here. People aren't going to want to do business here. But we do, and I want to maintain that, and look for opportunities to maintain that. Look for opportunities to enhance that if we can. And I think council has a really good partnership with the police force, with the fire department, where we understand what they need. I guess the second priority overall is economic development, and that's a corollary to safety. You can't have great police force if you don't have money, and you don't have money if you don't have economic development. So I think our economic department, for in Westerville is very forward looking. They're always out there looking for great opportunities for the city of Westerville. But one of the things I've learned is back, I think it was in the 70s, maybe the 60s, we were basically a bedroom community. We had 90% residential, we had 10% business. And there was a very conscious decision made by prior administrations, prior councils, prior staff to change that a little bit and make it so that there's enough commercial development so that we're self-sustaining. So now I think we are either 70-30 or 65-35, one of those,
Sure.
proportion for residential. So we're still, majority residential, and that's appropriate. But we're also have done a great job of economic development so that we can be self-sustaining. So we're not a bedroom community like some of the other suburbs in Columbus, which unfortunately, they really are very, very protective of their property that can be commercially developed. We have more of that. We're always forward looking to get more, the successful businesses in here to help us out and get those dollars in for residents, because 80% of our income comes from income tax. So 80% of the money that the city has comes from income tax. That's not from residents, that's from businesses that are here. So, I don't think that has to be a priority. That always has to be a priority. And then I think for a third is just making Westerville a welcoming place for people from all walks of life, for residents and businesses both. I think that that the park system is one of those things. Housing, and housing is a big topic. Westerville has previously been a little more focused on single family houses. Now, I think we're looking right now at different variations of housing, a diversity of housing, so you can have more people that could have those options to live here. And in that part of that is looking at changes we can make to update or alter the zoning code to make more opportunities there. One of the things we did recently was to ease the restrictions on accessory dwelling units, which are where you have a primary residence and then a accessory building. You can have somebody live in that building. So it frees up a lot of places, makes more opportunities for housing.
Right.
And we changed the code to make it easier to have those accessory dwelling units. Another way we're looking at housing. And I think, housing is definitely going to be on the table for any kind of redevelopment areas that we have. 88 acres, the East Africa, that's pretty well dedicated to commercial development. That's not going to be residential. But the other areas could definitely, that could be a possibility and in the mix there. So and then we have made some changes to the code to address people that may have been marginalized in the past,
Yeah.
which is also really important, or at least I think it's important. One of those things, there was in the last year we passed a ordinance to ban conversion therapy,
Yeah.
which it's a discredited practice. The AMA, the APA, and all the organizations have discredited, said it's not legitimate, and it was just something that was harmful, and we thought that was important.
Right. And so to clarify, does that ban just businesses or institutions providing conversion therapy within city districts?
For minors.
For minors.
Yes. For minors.
Okay.
Yes, that's to clarify, for minors.
Yeah. That's great.
But it exempts churches. Obviously, there's religious issues there too. But But the point being is that I guess my third priority is to make sure that Westerville is a welcoming place for people of all, for economically, people lifestyle, and I think that's one of the things that makes Westerville really great. Is we have Otterbein here. I think that makes Westerville special. We're just like a special kind of middle class where we just have everybody in its. And I think a lot of people say, I think it's just really comfortable here. It's not exclusionary. And it's just comfortable. It's a haven for people to come back to. So, and I want to preserve that. And I think part of preserving that is making sure that we're looking at how we project to all kinds of people.
Yeah.
In the community.
Okay, I'm going to take a left turn a little bit. Can we talk about the selection process? So in a development project, whether it's commercial or residential, what is the process from when like a developer comes to us and says, hey, I want to do this project?
Sure. So, I mean, it can happen a number of different ways. The city doesn't, this is kind of a misconception. The city can't choose the specific user. Sometimes we hear, well, I would prefer this business over this one. I really like, name your business, Trader Joe's, something like that. You say, well, we don't really pick that. They come to us. They come to the city and say, we've identified this piece of property and we would like to, build our thing. We have a coffee shop going up. I'll take that as we have a little coffee shop up at Meyer. It's now an out parcel. So they came and they said, we want to locate here. So they put together an application. And there's requirements for the application and to say what you're going to do. And that goes before the planning commission. And the planning commission looks at all the requirements, looks at the architecture, looks at the building, what it's going to look like, how it's going to affect traffic, just pretty much every aspect that you could think of about the impact of the building, both how it will operate in the community as well as, what it'll look like in the community. Mm-hmm. Obviously, if you drive down State Street, you'll notice there's a lot of brick. It's a lot of uniformity. And that's because Planning Commission and the council in that zoning process, they make sure there's some uniformity. So it all looks, consistent. But anyway, for the property, for the new use, Planning Commission, in some instances, when it's a sort of a smaller project, Planning Commission would vote on that, and then it would be passed, and then they would build their use out consistent with what was approved. If it's a bigger project, more land, more uses, and a lot of times, you'll have a bigger plan that'll involve a lot of different uses and bigger impacts in the community. That'll be reviewed by Planning Commission, and they'll make a recommendation to council. Mm-hmm. But they don't have the final say, and that'll come to council, and then council has a hearing on that to decide whether there'll be final approval. And so that's it in a very, very short nutshell. But that's basically how that comes.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Sometimes there's situations where people want to change uses, but it's not strictly allowed. It's not allowed immediately as a permitted use, but they'll ask for what's called a conditional use, which is you have to get approval beforehand to do that. But Planning Commission can put conditions on it, but it's pretty consistent with the area. So a lot of times when you see changes in uses in existing buildings that aren't really going to change the appearance of the building, mm-hmm. but it'll just change the use, then they'll come in for conditional use, and that'll be decided on by Planning Commission. So, if you see a building, one day it's a orthodontist and the next day it's, a nutrition store or something, mm-hmm. they've gone through a process to just get that approved.
Hmm. Very interesting. But how do we get a Trader Joe's here?
I believe we've tried. I believe we've had conversations. We just got to get them. We got to get them interested. I've also heard, how do we get a good Cameron Mitchell here too?
Oh, yes.
Cameron Mitchell, that would be great. So
that would be great.
I actually practiced with the general counsel for Cameron Mitchell now, and I was hanging out with him a couple of weeks ago. And I said that same thing. I was like, Can you get one in Westerville? He was non-committal.
Yeah,
he was definitely non-committal.
Keep working on it for us.
Yeah, there you go.
So, especially from your perspective as a father, what opportunities do you see for the city to better support our youth, our children and teens and young adults?
Well, I think the park system is great. Obviously, kids use parks, and the park system is great. So I think any opportunity we can look at to improve, upgrade, increase the parks, that definitely supports getting kids out of the basement on the video games and into the outside, which is always good. A good example of that is the BMX park. It's got the BMX with the skate park and the hockey rink on the other side of the Alum Creek from the driving range. But it's great. It's got BMX. It's got the like I said, it's got the skate park. It's got some equipment, and it's got a hockey rink. So that's great. We have through the Parks and Rec, we have great programming for the kids. You get the booklet, and it's got all the different stuff there. I think a lot of stuff that's interesting where kids can kind of dabble and they can learn if they like things. I think that's great. Right now, and we have such travel sports or whatever, and I don't know if there's that much opportunity, or there should be more opportunities for kids to kind of experiment with things they might like. And so we have a lot of good programming through the Parks and Rec
Yeah.
for that.
It's a great reminder, actually.
Yeah, check out those when you get those publications. Check out all the great programs for adults and for kids.
Yeah.
We're upgrading parks. We just Planning Commission just looked at renovations to Walnut Ridge Park, which is on Walnut Street. There we're gonna. It's had a really tough time with flooding there, and unusable at some points. Bunch of renovations to change the walkway system through there, make some boardwalks that'll get it up out of the water, and they're going to reduce the fields from 3 to 2, but they're going to be a lot more usable. They're going to reconstruct the basketball court. So, I mean, obviously, again, parks huge for kids, huge for kids sports or kids just informally playing. And then the other thing that is we are focused on sensory friendly hours at events. So for people that have, for kids that have sensory issues, setting aside an hour or extra time where other people aren't for those issues, I think that's huge to get kids that might not otherwise be out and have the ability to be involved, that they can.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
And obviously partnering with the school system in anything that we can, and supporting one another. That's ultimately where kids spend most of their time. And so any kind of partnership with the schools is very important.
Right. Okay. So I understand that City Council is nonpartisan in that we don't specifically elect members based on political party. But how do national politics influence our local government?
Oh, that's a great question. First of all, I will say we are not just nonpartisan in officially, but we are pretty nonpartisan in actuality. Since I've been on, and we have, the people that are on council right now have sort of a big spectrum. If you ask them, if you're sitting with them in their kitchen table and talking to them about national politics, you get the spectrum. But I think we probably had, if you counted them, less than 5 or 10 really split decisions on anything. So, we've worked really cooperatively in a nonpartisan way. And I think that's really important on the local level to be able to cooperate that way. I really enjoy working with all the people that are on council, regardless of whether their politics really align with mine.
Sure.
Now, as to your question, I think it's a really good one because there is pressure, from a national politics side. I think more so than it's probably ever been, as far as I can remember, where national politics is pressing in or bleeding into, a lot of different areas where it wasn't before. But I think we still have to keep a focus on, what's good for Westerville, and it's really about balancing that. We should be working for Westerville, not based on external politics, and that's the nonpartisan side. But the other piece of it is, I don't think you can kind of put your blinders on and just say, I'm going to ignore that. I mean, it's there. We had a situation where the question came up is, how would the police interact with ICE if there were ICE arrests? If some people say, well, you should tell the police not to cooperate with them at all, and other people can say, what are you doing? The great thing was, this is very very Westerville-esque. Instead of jumping into that, we asked the police force, the police. We asked, what do you do? Like, what do you have? They have policies on the books already. They know how to deal with this. So, it's one of those things where you can't just say, no, we're not going to address that. That's a national issue. You can't, say, I don't know, we're going to stay on our own path or whatever. But you also, can't get you off track from what's governing Westerville and looking at the local issues and focusing on the local issues.
Right. I think that's a great example to ask this question. What authority do you have as council to direct the policies for our police force? How does that work?
Well, I mean, ultimately, council has authority, over basically, it's called home rule authority. So we have authority over everything that affects Westerville, any issues that affect Westerville, including police issues, and the operation of the police force. as long as that doesn't conflict with state law. As long as there's not a state law that says we can't do that, or a state law that says you must do this. We can't sort of excuse the police from that. But in practicality, the way that it really works is police have a gigantic set of regulations, internal policies that govern pretty much everything in the way that they operate. And council wouldn't really get into changing those policies, but could for specific things. But the police have very uniform, very well developed policies that comply with Ohio and federal law. And then as to sort of the more general question about what authority or what is the sphere for city council in Westerville, like I said, Westerville has home rule authority, so we have really broad powers regarding things that actually are local concerns for Westerville. But then you go beyond that, we have more limited authority, which is what like you're talking about in terms of that national or state politics or those issues encroaching. We have to be aware of it, but we have to strike that balance between focusing primarily on Westerville, but also not ignoring those pressures.
How do we as a city work in tandem or just collaborate or communicate with other cities around town, other suburbs, or anywhere in the region to help inform our priorities or decisions or anything of the sort?
Yeah, there are. We do. That's where you start. Is we do.
Yeah.
Our Team Westerville. So that's when I say Team Westerville, I mean the non-elected people, the city manager and her office, and basically the 500 experts that actually run the city from the day to day.
Right.
Have a lot of collaboration with other cities. I mean, if there's something that comes up that's going to affect one similar city, it's probably going to affect everybody else too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of collaboration with that. I think informally, we go to different meetings or, and you talk to different other city council members from other cities and compare your experience. One of the great things about my job, not only am I doing that as my role as city council, but I'm sort of doing that in my job too. I'm seeing all kinds of stuff, all kinds of cases and things that come up in communities all over Ohio, or really the country, but that are having similar issues. And I can, I picked up the phone and called city attorneys and said, hey, this is coming up.
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of collaboration. I will say, I was told, and I won't name the person, but a member of Team Westerville, that Westerville is actually a proof of concept. So that meaning if Westerville does it, other communities will say, oh, that works. So that's something to be proud of, that, we are leaders. We're not sort of following behind somebody else. We're the ones leading.
Right.
And I think that's pretty important. And I believe that.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. Great segue then. What do you love most about Westerville?
Well, that's I don't want to give the pat. I love everything about Westerville because
Right.
it's not the perfect place. It's not it's not Eden. There are things, but it is my hometown, and I think anybody that's listening can understand when it's your hometown. You have a special love for it, but specifically, I kind of look through those things or that question in different lenses. Because I've been a kid here. I've been a student here. I've been a young person here, and I'm a parent now here, and now I'm, a city leader. So there's a lot of different lenses that I can look through to say, like, what do I appreciate about Westerville? As a resident, longtime resident, I just love the high quality of services, the park. What I was talking about before in terms of feeling like Westerville is really a haven from the outside world. I come home to Westerville, I can just breathe. And just knowing as a resident that, I think that when an issue does or a problem arises, something comes up, there's something unexpected, the city is professional and they deal with it and safely. So not really worried about can the city, is this something the city can handle or not? I have a high level of belief that they can handle it. So that's from a resident standpoint. From a parent and a former student, I love the schools. Maybe not everybody does, but I think I was well served by the schools. I've been successful because of the education I got. My oldest just graduated from Kent State. My middle is at Worcester. That's where I went.
Oh,
So
that's great.
my wife and I went to Worcester, and so she's going where we went, and she's been successful. And I think my son, who's at North, is getting a great education, and I think he's going to be successful. So as a parent, I really love Westerville for that. Um, and just as generally as a person, like I said before, it's uniquely middle class,
Hmm.
and it's welcoming. We got Uptown is awesome. It's just a great place to be. Um, so that's sort of general, and the fact that I do believe it's welcoming to everybody, and I think we're working that way to make it welcoming for everybody. And I guess one other thing I would say is I think that Westerville's got a great history. And it's unique. Like I said, Otterbein makes it a little unique relative to other places around.
Hmm.
Between I love the temperance history, and the fact that we were so forward on that, even though that ultimately kind of sputtered out. The slavery and abolition and our role, Westerville's role in abolition, and Westerville's role in integrating education is huge. So I love that we have a history of being sort of on the forefront of things like that. And like I said, the whole idea about proof of concept, I think we're continuing to do that. We're continuing to look for opportunities to move forward, not stagnate. So
Right.
that's a lot of things I can say, right?
Yeah, which is wonderful.
Yeah, obviously I'm a big cheerleader for the city of Westerville. As my wife will happily tell you that, man, you talk about Westerville a lot.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. Where can our voters learn more about you and your platform and what you stand for?
Sure. So I have a website, which is a pretty easy one, www.aaronglasgow, all one word.com. I'm on Facebook at Aaron Glasgow for Westerville City Council. I am on Instagram at Glasgow for Council, and I have an email, and I'm happy to answer anybody's email that sends them there. And that is Glasgow for Council 2023 at gmail.com. So I got that left over from the last go round. So
Okay. And then are you still going to continue inviting residents into conversation by sitting out at particular parks, or is that a regular schedule or?
well, it is largely availability driven, but we're trying to do it once a week, usually Sundays or Monday evenings, and we'll put those on. We put the announcements a couple days earlier on Facebook and on Instagram on socials, so people can find out. But chances are, while the weather is good, if it's nice and it's a Sunday or a Monday, we're probably going to
Yeah.
be out somewhere in Uptown. Just like I said, just sitting out. And I don't know if people really believe it, but feel free to come by and give us a piece of your mind, or just sit. We got the Dora, or we got coffee shops that have a drink and sit and talk with us. We actually bring out. I've got about 6 or 7 lawn chairs, and we just spread them out and have a little side table. So
Nice and casual and comfortable.
yeah, absolutely. So we kind of make this little area, and people can sit down and chat, and then move along.
Well, I will definitely be looking for you guys out there. And I wish you the best of luck this season. Thank you again so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity.